With the release of Prey, the latest Predator movie, I thought it was a good idea to review and watch all of the movies in the main Predator franchise, and we've already completed that task, so here today I'm ranking all 5 of the main Predator movies. Now, the Predator franchise is something that I've known about and enjoyed for a long time. Besides 1 or 2 movies, it's something that I really enjoy, and forewarning you, this is not including the Alien vs. Predator duology. I just felt like ranking the main 5 movies, and as some of you might know, this is my first video essay here on the channel, so if you like it, please hit the like button and let me know down in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It would mean a lot. Video essays are something that I've wanted to do for a long time here on the channel, ever since the beginning, so once again, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this ranking. It shouldn't really come to anyone's surprise, but in last place is The Predator, a totally botched movie from top to bottom. It's got horrible writing, terrible characters, and an incomprehensible script. According to comments by director Shane Black, this movie was extremely meddled with by the studio, cutting out some action sequences, rewriting and reshooting the entire ending, and even messing with the visual effects, making awful looking images in this movie. All of the characters in this movie feel like they're ripped out of some other generic action thriller movie, and they're all terribly written, they're all annoying in their equal right, and overall just absolutely hateable. And one of the big parts I hate about this movie is that the predators in this movie aren't nearly as scary as they actually are in the other movies. The main scare factor about the Predator is that it can hunt during the day, and that's its prime time. In this movie, the movie is based at least three-fourths of the entire movie takes place at night. And the Predator just isn't nearly as scary when it's hunting in the day, and that's its prime time. It's not nearly as effective as the other movies. There's one short sequence in this movie that I think is kind of redeemable. It's when the Predator escapes the lab, but even with that, it doesn't save the movie at all. Personally, The Predator is one of my least favorite movies of all time, and I just absolutely hate this movie. It gets an F from me. And now with that out of the way, let's move on to my number 4 and move on from this utter disaster piece of a movie. I would like to mention that there is a very big gap between my last place and 4th place, and here at number 4 is Predator 2, and once again, Predator 2 isn't nearly as bad as The Predator. When it comes to the script, story, and characters, though, this film does not match up with the other 3 higher on the list. This film is one of the cheesiest, most corny films I have ever seen. From the way it's shot to the weapon that the main character carries around with him, this movie is top-tier cheese fest for me. And not to say that it's bad, it's just very, very corny. For me personally, Danny Glover is easily the best part of the entire movie, and it shouldn't really be a surprise why. He's a great actor, and while his role here is one of his worst performances I've seen him give, he's really the best part of this entire movie, and he's very good. The Predator design here in this movie is quite cool as well, and there are so many moments that I think are just iconic with the Predator in it. There's also a ton of great action scenes in this movie, specifically the scene on the subway, which is really well shot, written, and used to really make the Predator menacing in the movie. This movie is nowhere near perfect, though, and I couldn't really pinpoint exactly why it isn't rewatchable for me, but that is the reason why I don't hold it in high regards. So while it's not nearly perfect in any sense of the word, Predator 2 is quite fun for what it is. Just go in expecting to have a cheesy good time, and then I think you might like it. I'll give it a B. Number 3 is where we get to the really good tier of this franchise, and here we have Predators, a movie that I used to not really like all that much, and it's nowhere near perfect, but I found this movie to be a lot more fun than I had remembered. This still is one of the better movies in the franchise, and for starters, this film feels like a return to form after the second movie. Still not saying that that movie is bad, but this is significantly better than that. Even just the fact that this movie takes place in a forest, or that there's a great group dynamic at the beginning of the movie. It all feels similar to the original without being a complete rehash, and that definitely is to the movie's benefit. I love the characters in this movie because they all feel fleshed out. They're all given backgrounds, and they all are individually interesting. Some of the characters are more interesting than others, though, and that's probably because some of the lesser characters are killed off quite early in the movie, but that doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that the characters were interesting for the time that they were in the film. And I mentioned this in my short review for this movie, but the Predator design in this movie is outstanding. It's the best of the entire franchise. The premise of this movie alone as a continuation of the franchise just feels so great. The main characters are actual predators from our planet being taken to the Predator's planet and being hunted on their planet. That's just a great premise to me personally, and I love that. The only major flaw I really found with this movie is that it gets a little bit boring after the halfway point, but there's not even that big of a quality drop there. But Robert Rodriguez, please come back to this franchise. We need you back. I'm going to give this movie a B+ overall. One of the best of the franchise for sure. A pretty common answer right here, but my runner-up is Prey. I already made my short review for this movie here on the channel, but I'll still talk about it in depth here. And man, this was an awesome return to the franchise. I, like many fans, lost complete faith with this franchise after The Predator came out, and this was such a great surprise. First off, the premise here is absolutely terrific for a Predator movie. Having this take place over 300 years ago, so technology isn't nearly as enhanced as it is now. So the Predator has to go to hand-to-hand combat instead of using his shoulder-mounted weapons, and the Prey, the Indians, don't have many advanced tools or weapons to fight the Predator. So this alone makes the movie so great. The main character of Naru is very well written for the trope that she mainly follows, and is definitely one of the best parts of the movie. Her character arc was very well handled and executed by the end of the film. And Amber Midthunder gave such a great performance, she became a star after this movie. The look of the Predator in this movie comes close to being the best of the Predators. The action in the entire film is very well shot and choreographed as well, and in particular, the Predator action scenes are absolutely outstanding. And the callbacks in this movie are also very well handled. If anyone noticed that musket that Naru has at the end of the film is also in Predator 2, let me know that down in the comments if you knew that, because I didn't know it until I watched a few videos on it. But it's given to Danny Glover at the end of the film, and the callbacks using the mud to the protagonist's advantage was also very clever at the end of the movie. And speaking of the end, the final fight is absolutely fantastic. It's well shot, well choreographed, and well executed in general. And the way that the Predator goes out at the end of this movie is so gnarly, but I absolutely love it. I couldn't really find a ton of problems with this movie, but the first act is a little bit slow at times, but by the end, the build-up that's given in the beginning pays off so well. So, Prey came close to being my number one, but it doesn't quite make it there, but I'll give Prey an A-. And without a doubt, coming in at number one is the original Predator, the classic 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger action horror blend vehicle. The great thing about this movie as well is that it's easy to forget that it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie since it's so memorable for its terrifying villain, the Predator. Arnold is awesome as always and delivers one of his best performances to date. His masculinity works so well for this movie in particular because of how he's matched up against the apex predator. And the team dynamic in the front half of this movie is so great. Each character has their own characteristics that make them feel unique, and you actually feel something when they're killed off. And the third act of this movie is so iconic. It's got so many classic, memorable moments, whether you talk about Dutch using mud to hide from the Predator, or you talk about the Predator taking his mask off. The part of the film is just so classic and extremely memorable. And in all, this movie is just an absolute classic. If you haven't seen it already, do yourself a favor. I'm giving it an A+. So that is it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, let me know if you guys like this video down in the comments, and let me know if you'd like to see more videos in the video essay format here on the channel. And while you're at it, what are you guys' thoughts on the franchise? What is your ranking of the series? Let me know down in the comments section below. Be sure to follow me on Letterboxd if you haven't already as well. The link will be down in the comments and in the description. So thank you guys again, and have a good one. So later, y'all. Stay classy.